Are you somebody who follows astrology at all?
Not so much.
Okay. Because
Tell me
Mercury's
though.
okay. No, just Mercury's in retrograde, and ugh.
I feel like it's always in retrograde though. It's in retrograde. If something is happening, it's always Mercury in retrograde. Are there any other phases it's in? Because I've never heard it of any other phases. It's always retrograde.
That's amazing. Because I think that you're not wrong about this. And I love that so many people, it's like become part of the vernacular. I've decided that the next time that Mercury is in retrograde, I am locking myself in. I am turning off the phone and I am hibernating because it's been a brutal week. Not even just a
Well,
recovery, just brutal.
not to bring the whole craziness into this whole conversation, but we probably soon will all have the opportunity to lock ourselves in. So I don't know. Let's stay out a little bit longer.
Do you think, I mean, do you think that this is going to get as bad as they think it is?
I think we will go through the period of panic where
Yeah.
we will shut down for a little bit. I do
Well,
think that whether it's true or not, but I think that it will reach us, that whole craziness.
I mean, I feel like it already has. Panic has definitely set in. There's companies
You
now.
think so?
I talked to one of my girlfriends who works in finance, and her company now has and actually another one that I was just with who works for a luxury beauty company. And if you go to Europe or one of the countries where this is happening, you have to self quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yes, it's crazy.
I was like, let me buy a ticket and go. No, that's so awful to say. I don't even want to joke around about that. But isn't it true? Well, listen, you are a doctor. And I mean, this isn't really what our podcast deals with, but we are timely. And do you feel like, I don't know, I heard the numbers last night, and I know that about 53,000 people in the country every year die from the flu. And
That's it.
only 3,000 worldwide or thereabouts, that was maybe yesterday, had died from this virus. So are we just panicking a little bit
So
preemptively?
I think we are panicking. The panic comes from unknown. We
Yeah.
do know the flu. We do have a test for it. We have also the treatment.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. There's more people every year dying from flu. We still have people who don't vaccinate themselves, right?
Right.
But here, the mortality rate is slightly higher if you look at the percentages. But as of right now, it's really not as high. But the problem is that it's an unknown factor. How is it transmitted? What is happening? And as humans, we're always scared of the unknown. And I think that that's where the panic is coming from.
I wonder too what will happen come April. You know, if this sort of like, I feel like the flu is seasonal, which I mean, it's a virus. So I guess it shouldn't be seasonal. Maybe that's just something that seems to, or maybe it's that our immune systems are compromised.
Well, it's immune system that is compromised. It's also how the virus survives outside of the host. And that's why when the environment is cold, it survives. When it's hot, the heat kills it. So that's why they're
Oh,
saying that it's a possibility that once the summer is going to come, when the temperature is going to rise, that that's going to disappear.
so basically we should all move to Florida right now.
I don't know about the humidity and the virus because they're saying that that allows it to grow.
Oh,
Again, you see, we don't know, and that's an unknown that scares us. Should we
all
go
right.
to Florida or Antarctica? I'm not sure yet. I'm going skiing in a couple of weeks to a small village in Alps. So I'm hoping that the cold and the snow that they will be nice and clean there, and I don't have to worry about it. But who knows?
Now, are you wearing a mask on the plane?
I am not.
You're not. See, part of me is like, is it? I don't know. It's part of my New Yorkerness, and it's not a vanity thing, but I see people on the streets wearing the masks, and I'm like, really?
So the mask really doesn't protect them from getting the virus. The mask protects other people if they're sick. That's what this mask, the mask that we're wearing. Because the actual true mask that has to prevent the tiniest, smallest particle of the virus getting inside your body, it has to be fitted for you. It's a special mask that right now you cannot buy anywhere. But the regular mask does absolutely nothing. If anything, you breathe in, breathe out, so you create the humid, hot environment that allows the virus to grow.
Holy wow. I'm surprised that more press and media aren't jumping on that.
Well, let's not
That's a
create
really,
more panic.
yeah, oh yeah, true. It's absolutely true.
But reality of it, the mask doesn't prevent. washing your hands constantly, making sure that you don't have anything in your hand, alcohol in everything around you when you're on the plane. That's what I'm doing. But wearing a mask, no.
So you know those like little packet. There's I forget they're antibacterial wipes.
The
Maybe
wipes,
it's wet ones. I think it's wet
wet wipes.
ones.
Yes,
Wet wipes,
yes,
and they're in that red
mm-hmm.
packet. I have
Yes,
no shame in my game. I get on the plane and I literally wipe everything down. And you know what?
100%.
But I'm not. I don't know that I would be wearing the mask either. But you know what? Being in a plane is a little bit different, right? Because you're in such a small, contained,
Yes.
disgusting environment. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I know that this is serious. We can see the world is reacting to it, and I hope it
I
doesn't
just
be.
hope that it's not going to become what it could potentially become. And I hope that it's not going to install this fear and panic into everyone that we're all going to start segregating.
True. Yeah. Although I'm telling you, a 2-week quarantine right now, I feel like, can I voluntarily sign up for that? All right. Welcome to the Art Beauty Podcast. I'm Amber Milt, and Ryan is taking a much needed and much deserved sabbatical. But I have a fabulous co-host today, guest Dr. Julie Russak, who is the founder of Russak Clinical Dermatology. Russak Clinic Dermatology.
Hello, everyone.
She's a board certified dermatologist, and full disclosure, she is the only woman to have given me filler. We did a liquid facelift for New Beauty, and I was really blown away. Number one, I remember when you came out, what was it, like 5 syringes? And at the time, I didn't think that I needed, we should quantify like when you need stuff, but I didn't think that there was that much room to fill. But when it comes to filler, it really, first of all, it's not as viscous as I thought it was. I think I was envisioning something more.
It's going to be very dense.
Yeah, like almost like a hair gel, if you would. So, but it's not that.
But it's not.
It's not. It's liquid.
It's not, and all of them are different. It's much more liquid.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I tell everyone, and I'm sure that I told you that when you use the word filler, you imagine that you're literally putting something in and you are filling things like a balloon. And this is absolutely not what we are doing.
Okay.
And those 5 syringes, first of all, is actually just a teaspoon, because 1 syringe is only 1/5 of a teaspoon.
It's the most expensive 5 teaspoons that you will ever have in your life. But man, and you know what though? A little bit I want to say this very clearly, a little bit in the right hands goes a very long way. So I have not had any filler. I feel like we did that, what was it, 2 years ago?
Probably closer to 3.
Closer to 3. And I haven't done more. And where I really notice it is under the eyes. For me, the under the eye filler was by far the most, I don't want to say noticeable in the bad way, but I think it created the best and most dramatic anti-aging for my face.
It made the most of the difference.
And I realize now I need to make an appointment and come right back to you.
It will be my pleasure.
So
with the filler, in reality, is you shouldn't really see the difference. I mean, you will see the difference maybe once we do that or the next day, but you shouldn't see the difference after. And the reason for it is because in a couple of days, you're just going to go back to where you were, probably depending on what we did it, but a couple of years ago. It still should be you. So, you shouldn't notice any difference. It's still you.
Well, here's the thing. I do want to clarify that because I felt like I noticed a difference. However, it wasn't that you were altering my features. It was restoring the volume that I had lost there. And that's really important because I think, I want to talk today about lip fillers. I haven't done lip fillers yet. And I think that I come from this idea where I still think duck lip. And that's not the case anymore. But one of the things, anymore, whether it's lip filler or facial filler, when you're using it to restore volume that you've lost, it can be very natural and really turn back a couple years on the clock. when you were using it to create structure or volume where you never had it, that's where it can start to look strange. Am I correct?
Exactly. You're absolutely correct.
Because you do want to see
you now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You do want to see a difference. People aren't paying thousands of dollars to not see a difference. However, the difference should be subtle. I want you to talk about that.
Is it the difference that you're really looking to see, which is still possible, or is it really what you said, restoring where you used to be, restoring your natural anatomical features? And then it shouldn't be different. You should not look like the person next to you or the person who's sitting next to you in the waiting area.
Right.
You should look exactly like you.
But it's different from how you looked.
Your face.
Right. But it was different than how I had looked
5 minutes before.
Exactly. 5 minutes before. It wasn't.
In terms of that, you will see a difference.
It was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
But let's talk today. So you mentioned that there are many different kinds of fillers. So can you talk a little bit about the different kinds of fillers that we're using when it comes to the lips?
So the best part of having a lot of different fillers right now is that we can create a lot of different things depending on your needs.
Right.
So we have fillers that we can use to literally give you a lip gloss effect. Those fillers just plump it almost the same way as if you were to put a lip plumping lip gloss.
Okay.
They will give you the appearance of a lip gloss because they will plump and make the lips smoother, but they will also make them look pinker. So the color changes. That's what a lot of my younger patients love, that the lips just become naturally much brighter color because you're restoring a little bit more of a natural volume in them.
What is that filler?
So the fillers that do that is Juvederm family, Juvederm Valbella fillers that have the tiniest molecular size. Restylane soap. Those are all, you mentioned viscosity before. Those are all fillers that if you look at them, they're almost like water.
Okay.
There's really very, very low viscosity. They are very nice and smooth. The word silk really describes that. They just float right under the skin. They don't give you really any volume. We don't want volume in those cases.
Right.
So for somebody who hasn't lost volume, but really wants a little bit of that out, like a younger person, it's a perfect filler. And then we have fillers that can really rebuild the structures, because if you really look at the aging lip, it's not just the pink of the lips that is aging. It's actually the whole area around. And what women don't understand is what we call the lip actually has two parts. There's a pink of the lip, and then there's also skin around the lip, a cutaneous lip. And if somebody who's older and lost a lot of volume surrounding the pink of the lip, and if you don't restore that, that's when you're running the risk of going into a duck lip. So we can use a filler that has a little bit more of a structure to actually do that.
So, okay, when you talk about that, can you talk about the technique involved in restoring the structure? Are they just, a girlfriend, I have not had lip filler yet, so I want to be honest, and that's why maybe I can't speak about it the way that somebody experienced, but I had a girlfriend who had it done recently, and she said she goes to this woman who has a very different technique of shooting it sort of up into the lip. I guess there's different techniques. Can we go into some of the
different techniques? So there are a lot of different techniques. The one that we can start with is a cannula.
Okay.
So what you do is you create a tiny small openings with a bigger gauge needle at the corners of the lips, and then you use a cannula. So the cannula is not a needle, it's not sharp at the end, but it's a longer, almost like a tube through which you can deposit filler. And what it does, that it doesn't pierce through any structures, it kind of gently pushes them away. So you could deliver the filler through the longer areas with just one incision, and most of the time it's just from the corners of the lip. You could rebuild with that the skin of the lip, so above the lip, and you can also go and restore the border of the lip, so it gives you a better kind of reach for the sharpness of the lip. When you start noticing that your lipstick is running and you have those lines where if you put the red doesn't stay on the lip, but it kind of bleeds into the skin, it's a perfect technique for that.
Okay. And now, what I heard too, that there is some procedure now that the girls are doing where they actually cut something within the lip to give you more of a defined pout.
So I oppose a lot to doing anything that is permanent in terms of changing the structure of the lip.
Okay.
You could definitely cut a little bit. So there are some, and it has to be the right anatomy.
Right.
There's a small tag frenulum that we have in our upper lip that if you cut it, it doesn't pull the lip down. It allows the lip to come up.
Yeah.
The problem is with this is what's going to happen to you in 5 to 10 years. In 5 to 10 years, the muscle that is holding your lip up is going to get weaker because that's what happens when we age. And then that lip is actually going to fall even worse than if you didn't do that before. So probably not the best of idea. It's a good short-term solution, but not a good long-term solution.
Gosh, I hope if people are out there listening, especially when you're younger, I think about all the dumb things that I did when I was younger, and you don't really think about when you get older, how is this going to affect me? But boy, because that was a very popular technique that I was hearing about. So that really sucks for all these people that are going to have that done.
A lot of the permanent things when our face changes, and no matter what we do, our face will change as we age. Gravity is very powerful. It's going to pull things down. Have to be very careful with thinking how it's going to look long term. And I do have a lot of patients who are very young and patients who are older. So I always keep it in mind what work I'm going to do on my younger patients in about 5 to 10 years.
That's
and be respectful of that.
That's so smart. Do you feel like, we were talking before about restoring volume that you had lost for the most natural look. But what about people who just have naturally very thin lips? And they want something, or maybe one lip is very thin and they're looking for that balance, but maybe they never had that volume. Is that, do you not recommend filler for something like that?
So it takes a little bit of time to really educate those patients and tell them that if they never originally had Angelina Jolie lips, I'm not going to be able to create them. That's one. But two, they really don't want that because it will never look naturally on their face. Your lips have to match your face. If somebody is tiny and petite, I'm not going to put 3 syringes of filler into their lips because it's going to be ridiculous. Those lips are not going to fill them. And again, that's where the duck lip comes. The duck lip is really just completely over proportioned. Anatomically, it's not correct, but it's not proportionally correct lip for the face. That's where the real expression of the duck lip comes from.
But what also gives it, because I know some people who, listen, there are people out there who also like a done look. And I mean, all the more power to you. Like, you've got to do what you want to do. I know a very beautiful woman. I think she might actually listen to this podcast. And I wanted to say, she went to her doctor and she was like, no, I want to look like it's done. It's like a badge of honor for some people. But for those people who want more of, and she actually doesn't have duck lips, but for those people, when I think of the duck lip, it's not only that one looks big or the other, but it actually is like the shape becomes very unnatural.
It's the shape. So that's exactly what I'm saying, that if you anatomically have small lips, if you put a lot of filler into the lip, it's not going to hold it. It's actually going to pull it out and down. So that out and down upper lip that is bigger and sticks out than the lower lip, that's what the duck lip is.
Yeah. Oof. Okay. Oh, and what can we do? I mean, is there? Let's take a step back. Sorry, I just had a panic attack thinking about that happening. That's so horrific.
It will not happen to you. Absolutely
but when you think about,
you would never want that.
No. But when we are thinking about lip filler, what are some of the steps that we can take? Knowing, is it good to come in? If we're doing a consult, is it good to bring in pictures from when you were younger?
Yes, absolutely. Always.
Okay.
It's great to bring pictures, but I also tell my patients to bring pictures what they imagine they want their lips.
But then,
I want to make sure.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm like, then how many people come in with the Angelina Jolie picture? And it's like, that's just not realistic.
You'll be surprised, not that many. But I do want them to bring that picture with them because then I will actually show them and explain why this picture is not going to match their face.
So whose lips are they bringing in right now? Wait, let's get to the who has the best lips in the biz that everybody wants right now?
Well, right now we went through this whole stage of we have Kylie Jenner lips and we don't have them, we dissolve them. Now we're really going back to doing a lot of lips. This is February. So for February, we do a lot of lips.
Okay.
And most of the people just bring random lips, Instagrammable. Nobody wants to have somebody's lips anymore.
Oh, so they're going on the gram. They're seeing some influencer, somebody, but not necessarily coming in with like,
Not
I want Liv
necessarily
Tyler.
celebrity. No, we've done with that.
Okay.
I think that we passed that stage. Right now, it's really people looking for different styles and people looking for shape, and they want to change the shape or they want to plump the face, plump the shape of their lips.
Now, do a lot of people come on because you do beautiful work and you post on your Instagram a lot of before and afters, and I get emails. I'm on your email chain, so I get emails of some of the before and afters. Do people come in and do you find that they are wanting to emulate lips that they're seeing that you have done, or maybe that another doctor has done?
So far, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think people, when they come and I think that it's a very big emotional step for somebody who's never done it, especially if they're doing for the very first time, to actually do their lips. So most of the time, they actually go back to their old photos and they bring me the pictures from the before. And they're like, but my lips looked so beautiful before. What happened to them? I want to have them back. That's usually where we start with the lips.
I wonder.
Younger girls, they come and they just want plumpness. They just want the lip gloss effect, because that's what we do a lot.
I love that you call it the lip gloss effect. So I can't really wear lipstick. I just bite my lips all the time. I am licking them. I'm brutal on them. But
do they feel dry also? Is that why you are kind of biting on them?
And I drink water, like gallons of water. Thank you, Mom, for that. My mother always had water, but I drink a ton of water.
Great for your skin.
So good for your skin. But are you having water too? Cheers. Cheers. But yes, I just have naturally dry lips, and I'm just not good with lipstick. I'm like a 5-year-old. So
then we should definitely put a little bit of hyaluronic acid, right? The most hydrating molecule that we have. So if you put just a little bit, it does hydrate your lips from the inside out. The dryness gets much better. That's where the color also comes. When the lips are hydrated from the inside out, they also become brighter and they become more pink. But they also, that's what nobody talks about, is they actually do become much more hydrated and not as dry.
Oh, so that's like a wonderful thing to think about. I want to talk a little bit about the procedure of actually having it done. So when you go, number one, we want to make sure we are with a board certified, right, dermatologist or plastic surgeon. Is this something that you should be going to like a med spa for?
So lips and area around the lips is very, very vascular. There's a lot of blood vessels. There's a lot of nerves. You kind of need to know anatomy. You need to know anatomy really very well when you're doing it. So I always tell my friends and my patients, make sure that the person you're going to is trained to know the anatomy and not just how to push the plunge. So board certified dermatologist or board certified plastic surgeon, absolutely.
Okay, great. And then what is that process like? So we get into your office, we've shown you our pictures, you've rolled in more syringes than we think. We've gotten over that because it does.
Maybe not for the lips.
No, not for the lips. Like how many syringes will go into a lip?
From half syringe to a syringe. Very rarely, I would say that actually for the lips, I would use more than one syringe.
Oh, okay. So then when you talk about a half syringe, are these things that then we can like store for the next time? No, right?
No, you cannot store it for the next time. But there's always another place where I can put another half of syringe.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And it's so true. Okay,
well, so if you look at the lip and really think about it, the corners of the lip. When we start even a little bit of aging, the corners of the lips go down because they lose the support of the corners. So by putting a little bit of the hyaluronic acid, literally just building up 2 triangles at the corners of the lips to support it, will last you a very, very long time. Not going to change the shape of your lips, but it will really make a difference.
Right. It's really about restoring that structure there. And
restoring the structure and building up support for the future.
So we come in. Do we put numbing cream on it? Run me through this procedure.
So you come in, we have this wonderful discussion. We always look in the mirror with the patient. I go over exactly what we are going to do with them. And then they say, yes, I want to have them done. The most important thing is to make sure that if it's first time, especially because it's scary, that the procedure is comfortable. So we put numbing. We put numbing on the lips and we let the patient sit with numbing for a good 10 to 15 minutes.
That also gives
The
time
lips
for
get
people to
numb.
back out, right? So that they're
Well, if you want to have your lips done, I want to make sure that you are committed to that.
yes, it's so smart, right? I love that.
So we lift the numbing sit, the lips get numb, and I tell the patient right away, so right now you feel that your lips are already huge. It's very important. We are actually very tactile, which means that when we touch our lips to each other, we actually know the size and the shapes of our lips. So when we look at them, it's not necessarily that we see the lips with our eyes. We actually see them with our lips. We feel them.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to the dentist and they numb your mouth, you feel that your lips are huge and swollen, but they're not, right?
Right.
The same thing happens when we put the numbing. So the patient already feels that their lips are big. And then we start working with them. So I tell them that do not panic. Your lips are not going to be huge. It's
Right.
going to be exactly what we discussed.
I did.
We clean the numbing.
Yeah, sorry. I will say this because like I said, I had my first filler with you and you were very calming and encouraging and the entire time saying, all right, here's what we're going to do. And it was subtle. It was very, very subtle. So, okay, so we're numbed. We know we're ready to go forward with this.
Now we're ready to go. We clean the numbing off and then we give you an ice pack.
Right.
Icing the lips are so important during this procedure because ice and cold constrict the blood vessels. Remember, we talked about that there are so many blood vessels around our lips. So we want to make sure that we constrict those blood vessels so we minimize the bruising.
Gotcha.
After you set for a couple of minutes with the numbing, we clean it again, and then we give you a squeezy ball. Because no matter what it is, it's scary and lips are sensitive. There's a lot of blood vessels there. If you're going to have your lips done, just know that you will feel it. It's not going to be a completely walk in the park painless procedure. You will feel it, but as long as you know that you will feel it and it's normal, it's absolutely fine.
Gotcha.
And on top of that, I use a special vibration tool. It actually helps me to define the border of the lip, but also vibration really distracts the patient from the pain. So they focus on the vibration and I'll tell them that they feel a small pinch and they do it. They feel the small pinch, but the vibration kind of overwhelms the rest of the nerve fibers and they don't feel as much pain.
Right. Okay. And then you get in there. So you use a cannula?
It depends. Most of the time, especially for younger lips, I do like to use a very, very thin gauge needle. Sometimes I use a 32 gauge needle, so sometimes I actually transfer a filler to a needle that is even thinner, so to minimize the pain. We call them the painless needle. You still feel a little bit of the pain. Don't expect no pain at all, but it definitely minimizes it and minimizes the trauma. I do feel that for the younger lips, it actually gives me more of a precision.
Okay. And then I want to talk about the healing because I've seen some people in the healing phase. And that can be, I mean, your lips.
Swelling phase.
The swell. Yeah. Thank you. Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So patients who in general swell up a lot, let's say they have a mosquito bite and they swell up, I ask them that beforehand because they will react more. If you just sit and press on the lip and just squeeze it, the lip is going to swell up. It's a histamine release reaction. That's how our lips behave. So when we manipulated the lips by putting the numbing, by squeezing them, by injecting them, by putting the hyaluronic acid in, that by itself, the mechanical manipulation of the lip causes the swelling. But then hyaluronic acid is hydrophilic molecule, which means that it loves water. That's why we love it also in the lips, because we want to hydrate and plump them. But the next day, you're going to wake up with swollen lips.
Like
and
really
that's
swollen.
Just a given.
So is it generally like?
But it's really swollen.
Okay. Is it generally a day or two?
It's generally a day.
A day. Okay.
If you have a lot of things happening the next day and you know that you cannot swell up whatever is happening with you the next day, taking antihistamine, Benadryl at night, and maybe Zyrtec or Allegra in the morning can really help with the swelling. And then ice.
And also maybe don't put it off to the last minute. I say if you have a big event to go to, don't do anything like a full week before.
That is a helpful hint, but it doesn't always happen. And sometimes it's a spur of the moment. And sometimes you're
Fair
here
enough.
in the office and you're like, I really want to do that. And then
Right.
after we're done, you're like, oh, but I have this tomorrow.
Right.
So there are things that we can do.
Okay, great. So taking the antihistamine, are there things that you shouldn't take beforehand?
So blood thinners.
Yeah.
Aspirin, Aleve, ibuprofen. I ask my patients to not drink red wine. Red wine is also a blood thinner. So all of the things that can potentially increase your bruising and increase your swelling.
And you probably don't want to drink it.
Also not to exercise. Mm-hmm.
Wait, no exercise?
Afterwards.
So, okay. So,
exercise afterwards.
The aspirin and wine, it's important not to have that right before and right after, correct?
Right before and right after. Right. So I tell them 48 hours. 48 hours before, 48 hours after.
It's a good time to just detox yourself. We should have done this in January. All right. So let's get down to brass tacks. How much does this, and we know every state is different, every city, every doctor is going to be a little bit different, but ballpark, what is the price for something like this?
So the price, depending on the type of the filler, is going to be from $800 to $1,100 ballpark.
Okay. And is there anybody who, we've talked about people who are good candidates for it. Is there anybody who should not do this?
With the amount of different fillers that we have right now, I will probably say no. There are definitely contraindications in general for patients not to have filler. But if you're not in that category, and if we're talking specifically who should not have their lips done but can have filler otherwise, then I don't think so.
And when it comes to filler, though, who are people maybe, you talked about contraindications, and I know it's a select small group, but can you tell us who that is?
So patients who have very strong autoimmune conditions, probably not the best candidates to have fillers done because they can actually react to them. In general, fillers that we use are hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is a molecule that we naturally have. But if you have a strong autoimmune condition, that's not the best.
Gotcha. And what about
the only other things?
Yeah.
The only other thing that I'll say that if you have an active cold sore on your lips, I will not do your fillers. And you probably should know that yourself, that this is not the time to have your lip fillers done. If you know that you break out with cold sores a lot, we will pre-medicate those patients with antiviral medications to prevent that from happening.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next. All right, so we've got it covered.
We've got it covered.
So I want to ask you, we've gone into, and you talked about some of like this lip gloss effect. Are there methods, or rather, I'm going to say, there are a lot of methods out there, or a lot of products that claim to have that lip plumping effect. So for people who maybe aren't ready to jump into getting filler yet, are there any ingredients that we should look for in those, or any that we shouldn't?
So the ingredients that help to plump it is really the ingredients that kind of irritate the lip a little bit, but a little bit. So you want to make sure that there's a little bit of a menthol, that there is really nothing toxic in the ingredients.
Right.
So a little bit of a menthol, you have that cooling effect and tingling effect, will cause your lips to plump up or swell up a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it can give you a little bit of a preview of what it can do.
Oh, I love that. Are there any apps these days that you think we can kind of give ourselves a test run on with some plumper lips?
I'm sure there is. I don't think that I'm aware of them.
If not, we should talk about it. All right. Oh my gosh, Dr. Russak, thank you so much for this. I want to share your website here with people. If people want to find you and make an appointment, what's the best way to contact you?
The best way is to call us. Okay. We're always available. We have the girls at the front who are very knowledgeable about every procedure that they do and we do in the office, and they'll be able to answer all the questions and then help to schedule.
Wonderful. And you can find her at russakdermatology.com. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for filling us in. Did I just go there? I'm really, really sorry. I went
like
there.
That though.
And
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And of course, if you want to find us, you can always find us on Facebook and Instagram at Art Beauty Podcast, and on YouTube at youtube.com/Art Beauty Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.